It's my birthday.
You stole the thunder from me. I was going to sing. I was going to dance, and you ruined
you were
it.
not. No,
yes, I was. I've been
you
practicing
were not.
all day.
Well, I saved everyone then. Happy birthday to the audience.
You always got to one-up me. Never fails. Happy birthday.
Well,
did you have a good birthday?
Yes, I did.
What'd you do?
Well, I went to one of my favorite restaurants. It was a surprise. And then when I got there were some balloons and flowers for me. Doesn't take much for me, but I got to hang out with my boys, my husband and my son. So it was good.
So how far ahead did you pick all those balloons and flowers out for yourself?
First of all, Andrea did that.
Carlos is a smart man.
I may or may not have, when we got married, said to Andrea is my assistant and Dr. Smith's assistant. I may or may not have said, please help him every birthday and anniversary. I need to feel special.
Oh, gosh. I gotta take these glasses off. Well, listen, it takes a village. And as long as you feel special, that's all that matters. Because then if you feel special, everyone else is going to have a good day, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. You see the smile on my face. I had a good day.
Good. Well, that's all that matters. I'll sing to you later. Maybe I'll work it into the show. I'm really bummed, but you might have been doing everybody a favor.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I know it was.
That does lead me to let you know about our guest this evening, who is not only a phenomenal singer, but an unbelievable songwriter.
Ah, really?
Which I've always been intrigued by the music industry, like how many people have written all the songs that we love for years, and then you've listened to them, you've sung them. I've always wondered, we're going to talk about that with him, but what's that like to hear someone else singing your song? And let's be honest, the person on stage is who gets all the credit, but the songwriting is the hard part. The singing obviously takes a lot of talent. But to be able to do both, I think, when we talked about your singing career and you talked about, you were a great singer, but it wasn't coming from here yet. Yeah. And I think the people that write their own songs, it's on a different level.
I agree.
But he's an amazing singer, an amazing songwriter, an amazing person. He definitely is a very dear friend of mine that I am super excited to have on the show tonight. And he might have had, and I'm going to let him make sure I'm accurate on this, one of the, if not the most downloaded song ever when Napster was a big thing.
Napster.
And I want everybody that follows the show to respond in one of the forums when you hear it. Please tell me you know what Napster is.
I mean, because I know what it is. I think I was 7 or 8 when it came out.
But what's interesting about this is that was literally like the Spotify.
Yeah,
ever,
it was
right?
like the pioneer for all that stuff.
But the downside is the artist received nothing for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll talk about that. It was the only way to get music online. And when his song, I Don't Have to Be Me Till Monday, I want to sing it so bad because I love that song. I've sang that so many times on a weekend, was popular. And he'll tell you the other one that was up there with it, which I think is really cool.
I'm going to find clips of you singing at some karaoke bar this song.
I've definitely sang it in the same room with Steve before. That's for sure. But anyway, our guest tonight is Steve Azar, very well known for I Don't Have to Be Me Till Monday. But he's done a lot of other really cool things. And he just recently was involved in being named on a project that's up for a Grammy. So,
wow. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go. I'm excited.
Live from Times Square, it's Pop Recovery Systems, led by visionary Laura Alexis. Pop Recovery Systems, redefining surgical recovery with bariatric expert Dr. Eric Smith. Innovating surgical preparation and recovery, Pop Recovery Systems blends nutrition, mental health, and wellness.
Breaking through the noise and changing an industry. Join Laura Alexis and Dr. Eric Smith on the Pop Culture Podcast.
There he is. Man, you just saved our ears.
Yeah, he was about to sing me your song.
I have a song.
I mean, more songs.
It was my biggest radio hit. He's doing the right thing.
There we go.
And there's a Bloody Mary now named after it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We got lots of stuff to talk about tonight.
Yeah. Hey guys, look at
What's up, buddy?
This is awesome. This is great.
Laura, let's clarify this, okay?
Yeah,
Steve
let's clarify this.
Has a charity celebrity golf tournament in Mississippi every year. Laura has met Nick, which we talked about in the podcast. That's how Nick and I met. And Steve likes to bet us on the final day, our team versus his team. I do think it's interesting that the team that wins every year happens to be very similar to the name of the golf tournament. Laura, do you smell something a little suspicious?
We only win by one, so it's not like, we beat them by one shot every year. So it's
and they always ask our score before they turn theirs in.
Well, that's true. And
Sounds
I've got
like
an
a good
eraser,
strategy.
and I've got the only pencil with an eraser in the whole group and the whole thing. It's my
The rest
tournament.
of
No, Steve's a very good golfer. They beat us fair and square, but we try. We're going to get him one day.
Yeah,
but he does have a lot of our dollars. Well,
I have a feeling karma
they got
is
maybe
gonna,
some other zeros on there.
I'm going
too,
to tell you
but
something. There's 100 missing over there. So somebody took one of the hundreds.
I would say that you might want to interrogate your wife, Gwen.
Yeah, well, no.
I will say, Steve, when I was chat GPTing you, that your golfing skills actually came up as a summary of who you are. What should I know about Steve Azar, the country singer?
That was back in the day. And that was before
this
we
chat
even met.
GPT is upgraded daily. So it takes everything from the World Wide Web and summarizes what they believe based on the World Wide Web information. So it talks about your
It shows you that they're not caught up. They're not caught up.
Oh,
Steve, that's what these young whippersnappers do these days.
It's not caught up because
take
I was
a shortcut on research.
I was pretty good, pretty good, but
He
this was
good.
10 years ago.
He still can play.
I'm not. I'm a mess. I'm getting older, so I get to play in the up tees.
Yeah. Laura, I'll tell you the story how Steve and I met, and maybe he'll give his version. But it revolves around golf. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
And there's a tournament that we play in called Monday After the Masters, not to be mistaken for I Don't Have to Be Me Till Monday, but
That's
Monday
right.
After the Masters by Hootie and the Blowfish in South Carolina. And Steve got paired as the celebrity on our team. And we played 18 holes of golf, and man, it's a marathon. 18 holes, it leads to about
7 hours, right?
Oh,
Wow.
it's a long day.
It takes that long? Good night.
Well, there's a lot of
Every hole, there's something going on.
extracurricular activities going on, and there's different booths and all this stuff. But anyway,
Okay.
and when we finished, we just had such a good time. We exchanged numbers, and he said, I have a tournament of my own. I'd love for you guys to come down and play. And long story short, the rest is history. That was, I think, 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And we've been great friends ever since. We've done some trips together, all the guys and their wives and ours, and everybody meets up. We saw them in Oxford, Mississippi earlier this year, and we went to skiing in Vancouver in the winter. So Steve is a great guy, and he's got a lot of cool stuff that I think is pertinent to not only our podcast, after we learn more about him for all of our viewers, because Steve, unfortunately, these people are so daggone young that they don't even know what Napster is. Napster.
Well, Napster was I was sent to Washington D.C. because my Waiting on Joe album was so illegally downloaded. It was me and Sean Colvin, who had the song "Sonny Came Home," and
Do you know that song, Laura? You don't, do you?
Anyway,
my.
But we were the beginning of Napster. They didn't know why we weren't. People were showing up at our shows, but sales weren't, and they were in college towns and a lot of college kids. But the sales in the marketplace weren't justifying the amount of people that were showing up. And they knew all the words to everything. So eventually I started going to these apartments to these college kids who were singing every word. And they said, this is where we listen to your music. This is where we download your music. And I said, what is that? And it was Napster. And I had a huge college, a lot of college people liking what I was doing. And they were showing up at the shows, but they were getting it for free.
And you went to D.C. over this, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I went to go talk to him. And I was with Orrin Hatch was there. And I went into his office and hung out, but I got to speak to Congress, if I recall, played for him, but they didn't. It was so nobody knew what it was. I mean, it was.
There was a movie about Napster and that it was like stealing music, and because the movie came out after things like Spotify and Apple Music existed, it's really hard for us to put the two together because we're like, what's the big deal? But the difference is they weren't paying the artist, right? They were just taking the music and downloading it for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so brand new, and our industry was really slow to move because it was just something that nobody ever seen, right? And they just didn't believe it. So our industry was, and then also our industry was saying, the movie business. The rumor was. And the rumor mill, I mean, we were at one point, we were Mercury Records, but got bought out by Universal. So it was all one and the same. So they said, our big brother will take care of us, which is the film industry. And obviously it happened to everybody. And nobody knew it was coming. But it's what it is now. And you got to look, there's silver linings in it all. You got indie artists now that are out there getting to make their way, and you don't have to wait on maybe a handful of people to decide on your fate. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, you know what, that actually sparks my mind a little bit, because you're right. In the environment we're in now, you can just put out your own playlist on Spotify, send it to people through social media and like make a name for yourself and get your music out there, and even have freedom of like writing the songs you want to write and expressing yourself as an artist. Where I would love to really know, is it true that when you're under a record label that sometimes like that really isn't the case, that you don't have that creative freedom?
I think what's happening now is labels, basically a lot of them that I talk to, and friends that are in high positions that have done really well on the record label side, they're out looking for artists who are developed already, that have developed themselves, that already have a base, that they don't have to gamble on, and that they don't have to develop. And that's, but there's a good side to that, and there's a bad side, because most of the talented people that I know that are really, really, really talented. So could you imagine Prince or Willie Nelson or Elvis Presley, or I'm just thinking out loud, could you imagine any of them? And maybe they would have. I can't imagine them getting on TikTok every night and worrying about those numbers, because those numbers are the ones that help labels and booking agents decide that if they want to invest in you, because you've already done it. But a lot of my most talented friends that I know would have never been good at social media. So they would. So I feel like that we're going to lose out at some point if the new measuring stick becomes, what's your numbers like? Like I'm working with a kid right now. His name is Drew Pulliam, and he's 19 years old. He's from Arkansas, and we're working on his second album. His first album, I was the one having to drive, and he was riding shotgun, because he just started to write. And the kid's voice was nuts. I mean, it's like, who sings Hall & Oates at 16 as good as Daryl Hall? He did. And when I heard that, I was like, do you write songs? And he goes, no, not yet. I said, well, you guys let me know if you start writing, and I'll work with you. So they called within a couple months. So the first album, although it was really pretty cool, and it did us a lot of good for him. The second album, I had him playing on every instrument just about. He's a multifaceted musician and extremely prolific at a lot of instruments. But this is his album, and it's insane. And it's it is so insane that we've had some big agents in the right genre for him. He's rock, folk, Americana. Say, oh, we're in. And then they looked at his numbers and they say, oh, we need his numbers to be higher. So we're in. They love him. But I'm going like, well, why don't you help his numbers to become higher? Why don't you put him in front of some crowds with some of the other acts? But that's not how they're all thinking now. So that's the negative.
Well, we just had a guest not too long ago, Marley, and she is well known on YouTube. She has oh my gosh, tell me the name of that new word I learned in that podcast, Laura, about it's not a documentary.
Oh,
it's
docu-stunt.
DocuStunt, yeah. But she's amazing, and she's a coach for people who are developing an online presence. But the worry that I have as the consumer is, well, the most talented person may not know how to develop content. Like, they can sing, they can write songs, but if they don't know the algorithm, if they don't know when to post, the time of the day to post, how frequent to post, how short the clip should be so they get enough views and they get bumped to the very top. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Laura and I know this stuff just because of other things that we do, but that's part of a formula, and that has nothing to do with their talent, their ability to sing, the ability to connect, and to connect with an audience. Because a like is so easy. We know people get really courageous behind a keyboard, good or bad. But how do people respond live?
Well, what's going to happen, I'm going to tell you, what's going to happen with the folks that are really, really working on their craft rather than that, and because they're just not into it as much, when that catches up, they're going to be ready to explode. You cannot take something that's just because there's a bunch of numbers. And you can't argue a lot of times with people that are listening. But sometimes those don't translate to putting butts in the seat, people actually spending money on the artist and all that. So when that happens and that artist can't hold up to what the expectations are for that artist, which is most of the time, not even most of the time, 90-something% of the time probably, then those acts are going to fall flat. So at some point, the two will collide. When the two does collide, when there's somebody that's, what do you call it, preparation meets opportunity meets preparation, when those situations, when the numbers meet the talent, then it's going to be a slam dunk.
You know what this reminds me of?
Go ahead, Laura. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Steve. Finish your
you
thought.
go ahead. Yeah, you go
first.
Thought, it's fleeting. I'm older than you. It's fleeting. It's gone.
Okay. That's why I said finish your thought. I know it will go away. No.
Yeah, it did.
But I was saying it reminds me of, how you're talking about these record labels are so focused on numbers, and in the health and wellness world where people are trying to, lose weight, they're so focused on numbers. And it's just crazy how in very two separate things, it's making an impact on people's lives, because you have some people that aren't getting the exposure that they deserve because of these numbers. And then on the health and wellness side, you have people obsessed with these numbers, not truly reaching their wellness goals because they're focused on this one number. And so even though they're totally different, that was the one thing in my mind, Eric, that I was like, wow, these numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so much more to it.
Well, so Laura, I mean, you guys, and so I know Dr. Eric, so obviously people can feel rejected and give up if they don't see those numbers, right? There's a negative to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing on the scale. You can look at a number and reject yourself because you haven't reached a number so fast. But, I'm really interested to know, you've been in the music industry for so long. And there are stories about people in the music industry that don't really make it that long because of the health side of it, not taking good care of themselves, having to be on the road and all of that. How did you overcome? What was your formula for your Steve Azar formula? What am I going to do for me, mind, body, soul, to make it through each stage of my life in this life?
To be funny, I have my mom's hair. There's a lot of hair underneath this hat. So
he's got great hair.
I got hair. That probably helps. But you can't tell now. But I'll tell you, seriously, I came from a really hard-working family and a very faith-based family. So it's taken a significant amount of faith for me because so I was doing this at 11. It was a man named Eugene Powell so Sonny Boy Nelson was one of my mentors growing up, and he was making the blues records in the 30s down in the Mississippi Delta. And so I'm a kid in my baseball uniform hanging out behind my dad's liquor store. My dad opened the first legal liquor store in Mississippi. And so he went to Notre Dame, went to the Air Force, came back home to Greenville, Mississippi, where his dad, when he was a little boy, had 5 movie theaters in Greenville, all single screens. And so he grew up loving the entertainment business. Back in that day, he would explain there wasn't a lot of people between Hollywood and the actual screen. There was like one person. So you felt connected to Hollywood in a way. And you're talking the 40s, right? So for me, I just watched them work, and I watched them believe, and I had a lot of false hope or real hope along the way that kept me going. And I got to a lot of crossroads in my life, and there were plenty of times to turn around, but I just decided to just dredge through just to get to the other side. And all of a sudden I was miles down the road where plenty of times if I'd have stopped, I would have never gotten there. I think that's a problem with a lot of folks. They get to a certain point and they go, there's nothing on the other side, when there is something on the other side. It's just hard to get there. And I didn't want to be the one ever to say, oh, I stopped there. I didn't want to do that. And this was in my heart. So you can't have a plan B. There was no plan B for me. I was a really bad pre-med major, but thank God for people like Dr. Eric, who are real doctors. And you don't even want me putting eye drops in your eyes. I'll miss. So the truth is, I'm not that guy. And eventually, when I got to college, my band got so big that we went from a van to 2 28-foot trucks, 10 guys on the payroll. And when I graduated college, I had 200 one-nighters on the books. And I was playing, and we were making money. And I built a house in Greenville in a neighborhood with bankers and lawyers at the age of 22. And it was working. But what happened was, it wasn't going to work forever, because at some point you had to have hits on the radio, which back then was the way you do it. And I was going to New York and LA, and I got close as you could get to getting signed, but they kept going, we don't know what you are. You're so caught between country and blues and rock and roll, and we don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. But we do love
and
the fact
Steve, who did they sign instead of you the first time when you were that close?
The second time I went back there, I thought they were going to sign me. They brought me in. It was Ahmet Ertegun, who's one of the greatest legendary record guys in history. So you look up Ahmet Ertegun, the founder of Atlantic Records, him and his brother. Just look back who he signed. So I'm in the office with him, and I'm thinking it's time, because they brought me back. And he plays me a cassette, which was back in the day. If all you young people listening, there's a thing called a cassette. Anyway, and look, it looks like this.
That was after the 8-track.
Like my phone case. You see this? That's the cassette. Anyway, so I
We're
went in
putting
there.
that
He goes,
in the YouTube edits.
yeah, oh yeah. So he plays me Mark Cohn's "Walking in Memphis," just piano vocal. And he goes, I'm signing you or I'm signing him. Yeah, so you know that. So I'm signing you or I'm signing him. And he goes, who am I signing? And I said, I don't have that. And he appreciated, but you're going to have it. And for me, it was my song Waiting on Joe that Morgan Freeman was in the video. And that was my game changer. And if I would have had Waiting on Joe back then, he'd have signed us both. But I didn't. And it took me so many more years. I didn't have my first hits until I was 37. And then that's when, but I was able to make a living writing songs and getting paid to write songs. And I'd go from this little bit of salary to a little bit more, where we were able to sort of have some sort of way of making a living where it looked like we were, it was okay, and, but then when the hits started happening and then I had throat surgery, and there's so much stuff, that adversity that came along the way, but, that I've overcome it. Moving back to Mississippi, I was managed by Fleetwood Mac and ZZ Top and Slash's manager. And then we just come off the biggest tour, Bob Seger, and everything was going great. And we moved back to Mississippi, and that was going to be a blow to that, because there was no more me hanging out, playing golf with them, doing dinners. I was down in the Mississippi Delta, wanted to see my kids grow up, because I'd missed so many years of being on my tour buses. So long story short, when I came home, Mississippi became my oyster. So all of a sudden it became a plethora of opportunity for me. and becoming the music and culture ambassador, now having the state song after we got a new state flag. All of this stuff has changed. It's the dream that I always wanted to be.
Wow.
To be able to write about Mississippi and be appreciated, and you know, I make the joke that I was running from the law when I was younger, but now I have a law as a song that's a law. So anyway, it's been a crazy journey, but it's been a true blessing, and there's so much to tell you. It'd take 14,000 episodes. How you like that?
We've lived a long
Sounds
life,
like
Laura, but we got more time. So Steve, I want to talk about this. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, but I want to get into this first. And you, obviously, anybody listening or watching this knows the passion that you have, not only for what you do, but the passion you have for your home, for the state of Mississippi. I will say this, God's honest truth, and Steve knows I've said this many times. I've been going to Mississippi probably at least one time a year since 2016, 17, roughly. And now sometimes more than that. And truly, Mississippi has some of the best people I've ever met, ever. Like, truly the best heart, the kindest people, the most hospitable people. And many of those people, if from the outside looking in, may appear that they don't have a lot, and they are extremely wealthy in what matters.
Yeah.
And that's, love and family and faith. And so, Steve is very proud of his state, and he's he's given a ton back to his state. And I want to talk about the state song in a little bit, but Steve and I have had a lot of really interesting conversations about what he does. I love hearing about what he does. He loves hearing about what I do. And the thing that is heartbreaking to me that we've talked about is Mississippi is the most obese state in the United States. It has one of the highest rates of diabetes in the United States, but yet it's one of the states that doesn't even provide bariatric surgery benefits to their residents who are on a state plan, which makes us realize even in 2024 how much work we have to do about educating people, governments, and leadership about the epidemic of obesity and how we need to be more aggressive in treating it. Right, Steve?
I've been around it my whole life. I've watched friends of mine, especially in the music business. It's tough, to watch, because they're not healthy, and there's just no way that they can survive it. So. Diabetes runs rampant here, and like you've told me, and a lot of times it's self-inflicted, but it's self-inflicted by what we're putting in our bodies, which you've explained to me, Eric and Laura. That there's just so much in our foods now. So even if somebody's trying to eat good, you may not be eating good at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated puzzle and maze of what not to do. But I can tell you, I started eating a lot worse when I moved back home. Mississippi and Louisiana, come on, it's just the food. It's there's a lot of
It's good.
The food. Yes.
Listen, I didn't have anything fried except for Popeye's chicken, which I had a lot of Popeye's chicken, but I didn't have anything fried. It was a treat for me. For about 20 years, I was really watching it. Everything was more sauteed or roasted or whatever. Man, I just ate a 5-piece spicy chicken strip driving home a second ago with a biscuit, and I don't know what else was fried, but because that's what we have here. And it's okay.
Right.
It's okay, and it's a wonderful thing. But if you eat it every day, probably not a good idea, right?
Right. Well, and it's accessible and it's affordable. And by the way, Popeyes, if you're looking for somebody to sponsor, we can have a conversation. Popeyes chicken's great.
Bury me in Cajun.
Unfortunately, it's accessible for people. People are functioning on a limited budget. They're trying to feed a large family for a minimal amount of money. And we've got a lot of work to do. And, I will say, and one of the things we try our best to do is not get political, and we're not going to get political. But the fact that our food and our health is becoming a topic of conversation, that's a bipartisan issue. And I'll argue with anybody any day of the week that is a bipartisan issue that we need to address in this.
I didn't want to pick on
country.
Popeyes. I love Popeyes, so you know that. So,
you're not picking on them.
No.
We all do.
He's let's be clear here.
Yeah,
I love it, and
listening.
no matter what, I'm still in. But
I'm
it's not
still
that.
going, no matter what.
Yeah.
Laura, I
Hey,
don't
listen,
mean that.
I'm from Kentucky, and I would pick
know.
Popeyes over somebody else. But hey,
just
saying.
oh man. No, but no. What I'm saying is that you still have to be. You still have to pay attention to excess of anything. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, my wife only needs. She couldn't handle me. And she needs me on the road every once in a while because too much of me is a problem. So
Well,
anyway,
I was in Vegas for a workshop, and it was my mom's birthday. So I had never been to Vegas before, and so I know that they're well known for like their Michelin star restaurants, and so I really wanted to try these, right? So we went to, and it's supposed to be that these restaurants would have a higher quality of food and ingredients, meat, So that's what I'm assuming. But I still gained like 7 pounds on that trip. And after the weekend of eating clean back here in Costa Rica, about 4 days later, I was 5 pounds down, just because the difference in the quality of food, the fruits here are different from the fruits there. The water, the lime, the everything is just so different. But it's just like whenever I go to the States, even this time I didn't even indulge in fast food. Like I usually have to go to Chick-fil-A at least one time.
Yeah.
But I didn't even do that this trip, and I still, with those, ingredients being so top notch, you know what I mean?
what the heck
Steve and
could
I
happen?
talked about that being in Europe, right?
Yeah.
We were in Europe this summer. We were in Italy, and you have pasta that you would think, gosh, I can't eat pasta. I'm going to feel terrible. I'm going to feel bloated. And you eat pasta in Italy, and you don't feel the same. We've got some good guests coming up in the next few weeks that I think we'll talk about this deeper, but you don't feel like you do here because it's not just, pasta has these ingredients, but what are in those ingredients? The flour that they use there is not the flour that's exposed to all the chemicals and the processing that we do here in the United States too. So
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me.
So
Yeah.
Steve, I want you to let us in on some recent news that you got about something associated with Grammy, and I don't think it's a grandparent we're talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm a part of something that's very
Listen
cool.
It's pretty cool.
We're up against John Legend, which is not a good idea. But no, it's a record where Alice Cooper and myself and Slash and DMC and Steve Cropper. You may not know who Steve Cropper is, Laura, but he wrote with Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Wait Till the Midnight Hour, Green Onion. I mean, he's one of the greats of our time. Anyway, we all did this record, so we're the featured artists on a Grammy-nominated record. So we'll see what happens, but we get a certificate if we win. The gold trophies go to our executive producers and producers who deserve it, who created this whole idea, who teamed us all up, and they've done a phenomenal job. Joe Norelli, Joe, and Dana Kamide and Ruben Salas has been up for, this is his 17th Grammy nod. He's a young guy, Latino guy. He's amazing. And so he's one of the producers, and they've done a great job of putting us all together. And so it's exciting.
so
we'll see.
Steve, tell us about the record, like the theme behind it,
it's a
the
children's
concept.
record. So for me, like Alice did No More Mr. Mean Guy instead of No More Mr. Nice Guy. He did the Monster Mash, right? For me, I wrote this song about a hospital that I was asked to write about in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that is a children's hospital that is literally a castle. It looks like a castle, everything about it. And so I wrote Our Castle Is Your Home, and I had the kids sing with me that were in the hospital. And they were the sweetest things. And so it was very inspirational, inspiring moment for me. But I'm the only ballad on the record. I make the joke that I'm like Beth on a Kiss record. Beth these
was
guys
a great
are
song, Steve.
Slash and all them are rocking. It was a good song. I like Beth, but they're rocking, and I've got the one ballad. But it's It's a really good record, and it's all gonna everything we're making, all my publishing, anything to do with my rights as a producer, whatever. It's all gone. We're giving it all away to the charity, and
Wow.
so it'll do its best. Obviously, this will give it recognition, but I think this is
Right.
one of those things where you're going to have a bunch of vinyl printed and you get everybody to sign it. And it's like these charity golf events that I have and that Dr. Eric comes to and we all do together from Monday after the Masters. You'll have people pay ridiculous money for a piece of vinyl not because of that piece of vinyl, really because they're just dang giving is why.
Yeah.
The man in the middle of the screen right now is one of the greatest givers that I've met. He's a special guy. The whole Kentucky group are so giving, and my man Brent, I'm shout out to him because he'll spend some money.
Yes.
Brent's got the only other one of these.
Oh, cool.
My logo.
That's
Yeah.
Steve's logo, and
They
Brent
pay
does
for
have
anything.
that.
They'll pay for anything. No, but seriously, it gives it another outlet and another opportunity. But the record was made for the right reason, And Alice Cooper's got his, teen centers that he helps kids, and he's got 2 or 3 of them, maybe a third one being built now. I could be mistaken there and speaking out of turn, but it's amazing what he does. And we contribute to the arts for kids down here in the Mississippi Delta. It matters to us. We're the birthplace of America's music. It's where
Yeah.
B.B. King and Elvis Presley, they all came from
Wow.
here. Jimmy Rogers, Oprah, James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman. We can go forever. And Mississippi's
Wow.
got more Grammys than more Grammy nods than the rest of the states combined. It's some crazy number, or maybe per capita.
Wow.
I don't want to whip that per capita thing. I'm just going to say we're the greatest ever. How about that?
I still remember how I learned how to spell Mississippi.
Yeah.
M-I. Crooked letter, I. Crooked letter, I. Humpback, I.
Beautiful.
And sometimes when I'm spelling it, I'll go M-I-S, crooked letter, S.
Hey, listen, even as me with the state song called One Mississippi and me being the music and culture ambassador of the state, I have to really check myself because Siri, if I'm doing it by
you got these
voice
kids singing
text,
with you.
Yeah, but Siri, she just doesn't like me. She'll spell Mississippi in a way. I'm going, come on. And I think she thinks I say Mississippi, and I leave out,
Well, you kinda do.
one. Yeah,
Mississippi.
we got things to do. We can't be, it's a long
Right.
word. It's a beautiful word. It's a beautiful word.
So how did you end up writing the state song? I want that I still want to know that before we wrap it up. How did that happen?
The bicentennial was coming up for us, and the governor called me into the office, and he said, I need you to write the official bicentennial song. You're the guy. You've been writing about Mississippi your whole life. And I said, I'd love to do that. And then he said, but one caveat. Every kid in Mississippi from all walks, they have to want to sing it. That's all I care about. And I said, okay, I got it. And so the song wrote itself by the time I got home. The next day I called the governor. I said, hey, are you busy? I texted him, are you busy? And he said, I am the governor, is a text. I love it. I said, I know. I go, I've got it. He goes, you got what? And I said, I got the song. He said, there's no way. I said, not only do I have it, it took me a whole lifetime to write this, but it took me just to drive from Jackson to Greenville to put it down because I didn't write it. It was written for me. I mean, the man upstairs, it fell out. There was nothing that changed. And it's 6.5 minutes long. It's a long song. So,
Wow.
So we had gotten a new flag in, after it did its thing, people would always, when I play it at these events, people would go, that needs to be our state song. And people would howl it. And so it was interesting. But then all of a sudden, our Speaker of the House and another Congress lady, Becky Curry, and Philip Gunn was our speaker, came to my house, and they said, we want to write the bill. We were the one. Philip was one of the ones that wrote it for the new flag, which Mississippi needed, right? And no brainer. And So they just said, we want this, the song is going to be what's going to follow. And it did, and now we have a children's book, and the children's book now they're writing a bill now this year for it to become second grade curriculum. So the children's book with the lyric, so we've got a whole full blown curriculum that Ole Miss and Mississippi State and William Carey College, they're teaching the teachers that teach, and they're using our book as part of the formula. So these are the greatest. Well, this is the greatest hit records and stuff like that. That's awesome, and I don't get that opportunity if I don't do that, but my body of work mostly is consumed of. I mean, that one album's called My Mississippi Reunion is songs about city limit signs that I saw that were so inspirational, and so that sits on that record. Also, Cedric Burnside, who's one of the greatest blues guys of our time, is on that record. He did a song I wrote called Coldwater with me. But the bottom line is they're all town names, and they've all mattered to me. And they speak to me when I just see their words, see those letters on the sign. So it's been a blessing. It's been my greatest achievement, and I mean that. I'm extremely, extremely grateful and humbled by it. I can promise you.
We were talking to Nick not too long ago, and Steve knows Nick really well. And Nick's such a great guy, but he talked about his opportunity to win the gold medal and the platform that it provided for him. And it was so cool to hear him without being prompted or even asked the question. He just simply said, I wouldn't get the chance to get in front of people. He talked about before he won the gold and he was fourth. And he's like, you know what fourth is? It's like terrible in the Olympics. But he said, I wouldn't get the opportunity to be fourth in an Olympic event and sit in front of all these people and tell them things that have changed my life and inspire them. And it's almost like he wanted to win the gold, but he's embraced more the opportunity, the fact that he has a platform now. And, I think there's so many people, everybody can't have the state song or have a hit record like you did and multiple hit songs or, get the unbelievable privilege to operate on people and speak to people in regards to that, whether it be on TV or not. But everybody has an opportunity to have a platform. They just have to see it, And I think what happens is those platforms occur when you are truly following your passion. Because, as Nick said, and I loved it, if he was obsessed with my goal is to win a gold medal, it would have seemed like it was so far away and it was unattainable, and he would have missed the whole process getting there. He just showed up every single day and did the right things.
Right.
And I talk to patients all the time about try to throw the goals away. Let's focus on habits. Where's your passion? What is so great about today that you want to achieve? Winning today. I always say win today.
I love that.
I've probably said this before, but we spend 80% of our time worried about our past or stressing over the future. And we only got 20% left today. And we've got to flip that around, because if we win today becomes tomorrow's past. Our past gets better.
Yeah.
And, but you're passionate, you like you said, it was in your heart. You were passionate about it.
Yeah.
And in turn, you stumble upon your platform, and it just becomes natural, and you find all these little things. Because I promise you, if we asked Steve at 11 years old, hey, dream big, you're going to have the state song, he would have looked at us like, what? What happened to the hit record? Right?
Yeah.
No. It's funny how you can't even set your sights on things like this. These are the things that come along because you're putting the work in and you're doing it honestly, I think, and you're doing it right. You know what I mean? So I think these are the gifts that come along that you just can't plan for it. There's no way you can plan for this stuff. And moving back to Greenville, Mississippi, when you're heavily in the music business, Laura, not the smart. It wasn't. On paper, it made no sense. But as I've spent the last 14 years back here, and I did 20 there, 14 years back here, it makes more sense than I could have ever dreamed about. And it makes no sense to think that I wouldn't. Like it was the best move in the world. It took a second, but 14 years. It's amazing how fast those seconds go by when you look back.
Well,
but I love what y'all said. Go ahead. Yep.
I think a main thing that you said, Steve, was that your faith. That really stood out to me.
I believe in it.
When things don't look like on paper or to the outside eye, they don't see it, but he sees it, right? He saw the path.
I'm a believer.
Yeah.
I'm witness. I'm not going to go into this. Yeah,
Yes.
but you're right about that. That you know what? Things get too heavy for anything and everything at times, and it's good that you can turn to where you need to turn.
Agree.
It's important, I'm a believer.
So as we close out this episode, what are your closing inspirational, motivational final words to our listeners who are on their own journey, whether it's transformational or career, or they're, like you spoke about, right there, right? They can't see the other side and they want to give up. What would you say to them?
I know there's a lot of noise in the world right now, and there's a lot of divide, right, in our country and stuff. And I think that you got to sometimes shut all that noise out, and you got to think about first of all, you need to look around you and see the people that love you. Right? Because it's hard sometimes to love yourself. That's a difficult thing at times. And they say you got to love yourself. You have to be able to do that first. But sometimes it's difficult because we're not happy with the way we look, the way we just failed at something or almost succeeded at something. And it's such a long journey through life if you get an opportunity to live a lot of years. So I just think that you've got to look around at the people that love you and know that there's a purpose. And then at the same time, find that passion and that thing that you really love. And I know obligations can get in the way. I know reality can get in the way. I know all that. But if you can tend to those passions along the way, you never know if that 10%, that's all I can put in my passion, 10%. You never know if you wake up a year later and I'm spending 20% of my time on that. Oh no, oh my God, in 6 years, I'm making a living out of that now in 10 years. Yeah. You can't let go of those things because that's where that true joy and happiness comes from that you need. And like I say, relationships. Getting to know you right now, Laura, I feel like I've known you for a long time. Dr. Eric has become such a dear friend that I feel like him and the whole group from Kentucky, I feel like I've known them since I was 4. There is my friends that I've known since I was 4. It doesn't feel any different, and that's how fast it happens. And I've been open to having great, open to these opportunities of getting to know folks like you guys. And those are the other benefits in life that create opportunities to have a good time and be happy and be positive and optimistic. So stay more positive, stay more optimistic in your day than you do negative. And what did you just say? How many people spend how much time on everything else and 20% on the day itself? Well, there's no way that you can win. There's no way you can win on 20%.
No, you can't.
For a full day.
And we catch ourselves doing that all the time. That old saying is that's why the windshield's much bigger than the rearview mirror. That's really what that means. Mm-hmm. And I think, we all are very blessed, but it's a perspective that we see the blessings that are presented to us, and they don't always have to be shiny. They don't always have to be a hit record. They don't always have to be a surgery that we do. They're the little things. They're the relationships. Anybody out there, we want them to know that they deserve grace. They absolutely do. They've been given grace, whether they realize it or not, but they deserve it. And once you embrace that, man, if you can just start giving that to somebody else because you've realized you deserve it and maybe you give it to them too, I think that's a good place that we can start.
I love that. It's also a good place to end this podcast because that's beautifully said. Unless, Laura, you're going to say something. Of
I know course, I'm going to close this out.
But Steve, wait, real quick.
Okay.
It's somebody's birthday today, Steve.
Oh,
I was going to
Laura.
sing to her, and she cut me off.
Oh.
She totally cut me off.
You can do the honors.
Happy birthday, Laura.
I could have played my drums, and you could have sang, but
I need guitars. I'm not the best birthday singer in the world because but I can tell you this. I hope you've had a blessed and a wonderful one so far, and I hope that it continues until the clock strikes midnight and beyond.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking time to be on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. I'm going to go listen to more of your songs because my dad loves blues. And I'm going to share them with him. And he's probably going to be like, I know that song. I know that song. I know that song.
Steve cut an album with members from the bands that played with B.B. King, Elvis Presley, all of them combined.
Yeah,
I gathered that.
So much history.
I mean,
I'm really excited
Milton,
to listen.
Yeah, check it out. All right, well, you're very sweet.
If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like, that you subscribe, that you share the Pop Culture Podcast. Come with us every single week. We're going to be bringing people from all different backgrounds to talk about the very important truth, in fact, that health is wealth. So join us next week. Steve, thank you so much, and we'll see you next
Laura,
time.
much
on
love,
the Pop
Eric.
Culture
See you later.
Podcast.
See you, buddy.
Bye.